What's going on, Bulls Nation? Last night, the Chicago Bulls picked Matas Buzelis with the 11th overall pick. This is just going to be my initial thoughts video on the pick of Buzelis. So I'm going to go over what I'm excited for when it comes to Buzelis, some concerns I have about him, how I think the Bulls are going to really fit Buzelis into their system, and how I think he can, what type of player he can become down the road. And then also why I do think that the front office actually deserves a round of applause for this pick. So before we get into it all, make sure you hit the like button if you're new to the channel. Hit that subscribe button. Let's talk about what I'm excited about when it comes to Buzelis, okay? First off, I did not expect him to fall this far. I thought he was a for sure top 8 pick, especially with how a lot of teams were talking, or a lot of mock drafts were talking about him, and a lot of teams kind of take the chance on a guy with a lot of versatility, guy with a lot of length, and kind of how the Bulls kind of do their drafts. And so I expected him to be picked pretty early on, and suddenly Ron Holland, who I thought would fall to the Bulls, is picked at number 5, and Buzelis, who I thought would be picked at number 5, is going to fall to number 11. So we get Matas Buzelis out of it, and I'm happy to welcome the Chicago's own Buzelis to the Bulls. And I'm very, very intrigued by him. So a couple of things that I really do like about him. AKA talks about, in his press conference, he talked about his versatility, and I do think that he has some versatility within him. And I'm going to start with the defensive end, because I think that there is some good potential in the defensive end. I think it's very evident that Buzelis has a lot of length. He's 6'10", 6'9", whatever his actual height is, with a really good wingspan, and he has a pretty good leaping ability as well. The biggest attribute right now for Buzelis currently on the defensive end is his shot blocking ability. He might honestly come into this Bulls team and already be the best rim protector on this Bulls squad. And obviously, we have Vooch, and who knows who the other center is going to be on this roster. But I honestly think that he is already the best rim protector on this Bulls team currently. So I'm very excited to see his shot blocking ability be put on full display, and see his defensive instincts in help defense really impact this Bulls team moving forward. So very excited about that. He might have some ability to switch onto some smaller players. I'm not entirely sure about that, but I'll talk about that in a little bit later. So, biggest thing right now is shot blocking ability on the defensive end. Offensively, when it comes to Buzelis, there's a lot that I can see where people are thinking about him becoming someone like a Franz Wagner, and I do think that's a really good comparison. Buzelis is a pretty good finisher at the rim right now, in a sense. He still needs to get a little bit better, and obviously needs to get stronger with it, but I can see that when it comes to him attacking closeouts, he attacks closeouts with authority. And this is kind of something that I've been looking for from a wing or a forward from the Bulls for a long time, which is if the defender runs out to you and you can attack the closeout, can he put the ball on the deck and actually go to the rim hard? And he does that really well already. So I'm very, very excited about that. So looking forward to some, ferocious dunks from him. The other part is that he moves really well. You can see when he plays, whether it's with the ball or without the ball, he moves pretty well within the offense. He cuts pretty well, and he seems to understand how to get good positioning when it comes to spacing on the floor, and when he should get the basketball, and how to get open for his teammates. So I'm excited to see that. He also understands when he does need to shoot the ball. He doesn't seem to hesitate when it comes to shooting, which I'm very happy about. So I'm hoping that he comes into this season, or this upcoming season, where he has no hesitation whatsoever in terms of his shooting. So excited to see that out of Buzelis. So I see some of the ideas where he can be a pretty good on-ball creator. Maybe we'll see about that moving forward. I'm more worried about him just getting stronger, finishing at the rim a little bit better, and being able to knock down a consistent jump shot first before we can start talking about his on-ball creation abilities. So that's what needs to get worked on first, and then we can worry about him becoming and developing, him to become one of the better shot creators in the league, hopefully. When it comes to my concerns, okay, I'll admit that I was not the biggest fan of Buzelis coming into this draft. I do see the potential, but I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of it. But that I don't want you to take that as a bad thing, okay? I am intrigued by Buzelis, but one of the things that I am a little bit concerned about when it comes to him is that, and NBA Draft Net had this, he seems like he could be a jack of all trades guy, but he doesn't necessarily excel at one thing. So he can kind of do a little bit of everything, but he won't be a 20-point per game scorer. He won't be a really dynamic rebounder. He will be an okay shot blocker, but he won't be that great. And yeah, he can handle the ball a little bit, but he isn't really necessarily the best at it, and there are other people to give the ball to. That's kind of just where my concern is. Now, that being said, being a jack of all trades type dude, you can also become that Swiss Army knife for a team. So I'm not saying that that's not, worthless. Being a jack of all trades type dude has its value. It's just a matter of how well he can do all these different things. So that's going to kind of be where my concern is at. And the biggest thing that he has to get down immediately, in my opinion, is going to be his shooting. And this is part of my big concern with them. I look at his shot form. I'm not necessarily concerned with his shot form. I think it looks pretty fine. He's also seems like he has the confidence to shoot it whenever he's open. From what I've seen from him, his playing time with the G League Ignite. So I'm not necessarily worried about his confidence and his understanding of when to shoot the ball. I'm just concerned about his 27% three-point percentage that he put up last season. Now, in high school, he put up a much higher percentage. He shot 45%, I believe, in high school. So maybe it was just a down year last season, and maybe it's just an adjustment period to adjust to the NBA three-point line. But this needs to get, figured out pretty quickly. I think that if the Bulls are heading into a rebuild, he's going to have these next 2 seasons to really develop his three-point shot, or just his shooting in general. And so these next 2 seasons are going to be very, very important for Buzelis to work on his three-point shot, or just shooting or outside shot, so that he can at least rely on that moving forward as he continues to develop as a player. So that's going to be extremely important, and I'm really hoping that it works out well. But 27% is obviously something that it's not something that I'm really looking at too well. I'm aware that other people had, similar weaknesses in this draft, so it's probably the same concern for a lot of these other draft prospects. But that, I think, though, for Buzelis, because of I do see some sort of limitations defensively, and I don't necessarily know how much he's going to do on the offensive end. That three-point shot, I think, is really critical, in my opinion. So that needs to get worked out first, and Peter Patton is going to have a lot of work to do this upcoming season with this Bulls team. So that's my main 2 concerns. Now, the little bit less concern for him is I think that defensively, I'm a little bit concerned in terms of how he's going to guard more of the perimeter type players. I think right now his best attribute is his shot blocking ability. His help defensive instincts are very, very solid already. And obviously uses his length really well to deter shots at the rim. There have been some moments where he does really do a good job squaring up in an isolation situation and guarding a guy and making sure he doesn't get a good shot off, and that's good to see. But I don't know necessarily how much he's going to be guarding, more of the small forwards and the shooting guards of today's age, which is the reason why I more call Buzelis more of he is strictly a prototypical type 4 and much less of a wing type player. I know some people are talking about he's gonna be this wing player that can kind of do all sorts of things, but I more so think that Buzelis is more of a 4 because his help defense is going to be more useful there, which then also leads to kind of how I think the Bulls might even use him on both ends of the floor. But I'm going to be very interested to see if the Bulls try to experiment with Buzelis at the 5. I'm not saying start him at the 5. I do not want him starting at the 5. I'm just saying that I think that there is some potential to be putting him at the 5 position, especially defensively. The reason why is because, like I said, his best attribute is his shot blocking ability right now on the defensive end. Okay. And the best way to get, to put that on display or use that ability is to put him in position so he can be the help defender. And I think putting him in position of being either the 4 or also the 5 could be a really good idea. And I'm not saying that the Bulls should be thinking about, switching everything 1 through 5 when he's playing the 5, but you can, with his mobility, I could definitely see the Bulls switching up the defensive actions, especially on the pick and roll, where instead of them playing a drop coverage, with Buzelis at the 5, you can maybe blitz the screen, or you can maybe do a soft hedge, right? That's kind of where I'm very interested with Buzelis on the defensive end, if he is kind of playing that 5 position, so that he can put his best attributes on full display at that position. So that's kind of where I'm maybe thinking where the Bulls kind of fit him. I definitely see him more as like a 4/5 rather than him being like a 3/4 or like a wing type player, at least in my head. But that's just at least my opinion when it comes to Buzelis. And the other parts of where I think Buzelis is like gonna fit into like the Bulls offensively, I said earlier about his 3-point shot, especially if he's going to be a 4/5, his outside shot has to get going. That's something that's going to be very, very important. But right now, what I know that he can do today is he is going to be a guy that is going to cut very well, and because he's such a big body, he's going to be a big target, and he's going to finish pretty well at the rim. But he's also going to be a guy that can be reliable when it comes to attacking closeouts. And that's something that this Bulls team has really desperately needed for a while, is a guy that isn't the main ball handler to be able to get the ball from whoever and make a quick decision and attack the closeouts. And he has the tools to be making those decisions effectively and then also getting a good amount of impact out of it, whether that's him passing the ball, looking for others, or just trying to create, but also then finishing himself. So I'm very excited to see that part of his game first, and then we can start thinking about moving forward where he's going to be more of a shot creator. And like I said earlier, I just don't really see, he doesn't really have much of like a crossover type move, but if he's kind of put into like that 4 role, he has pretty decent handles for a dude that plays the 4. So that's where I'm like, I'm very intrigued to see kind of how he develops. So those are all my initial thoughts on Buzelis. Again, I'm intrigued. I don't expect Buzelis to become the best player on a championship team or the second best player, which, you know, if he does, fantastic. But that's not my expectation of him so far. Like I said, I kind of think of him as like a jack of all trades, and we'll see what he actually does excel at in terms of all of his abilities. Last but not least, in this video, I do think that this Bulls front office deserves a round of applause. Biggest thing is that they kept it simple. They saw that one of their guys that was at the top of their board fell, and they picked him. They didn't decide to use the 11th overall pick by reaching for a guy that they like, maybe that was projected to go lower in the draft, and picking him at 11, which I sincerely applaud them for doing. So really good job of picking Buzelis. Really good job of drafting based off potential and keeping things pretty simple. The Bulls also did not draft Devin Carter, who I was very worried that they were going to draft him. Again, I've been very clear that it's this pick, in my opinion, had to be a potential pick, especially if this Bulls team is about to head towards a rebuild. If you pick Devin Carter, he's basically 1 year younger than, like, I would assume, or Kobe White right now. That's not what we need, right? We need guys that have potential, like Buzelis, and try to develop him, and have him be a core piece of this future moving forward, and not immediate help. So, big round of applause to the front office. I'm not back on the AK train or anything. I'm not saying, you know, yeah, go support AK now. No. I'm just saying that, hey, they deserve the round of applause for picking Buzelis when he did fall unexpectedly. So that's all my thoughts on this video. Please make sure you hit the like button. Welcome Matas Buzelis to Chicago. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. I'll see y'all for the Buzelis breakdown video. Peace.